Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of the Mustardcast. I'm Dijon.
I'm Amir.
All right, the Mustardcast is about the art of storytelling and how it's used across different mediums. These mediums span from movies, TV, and animation to comics, novels, and music. Our conversations here will center around our favorite of those categories and how they tell stories in ways that engage us more than anything else ever could. We'll start the podcast off with introducing ourselves a little bit more about ourselves. Like I said, I'm Dijon. Dijon Mustard is my nickname. My real name is Deshaun Fortune. Um, Currently, I'm not in school, but I'm a graphic designer, and my goal is to become a video game designer. And that's why storytelling is it's so important to me and why I wanted to start a podcast about it. And because Amir is a comic connoisseur, and he's also in the video games and movies and such, I decided he would be the perfect co-host. So can you go ahead and introduce yourself, Amir?
Yeah, I'm Amir. I don't have a nickname. I am currently a student at Towson University in Maryland studying forensic chemistry. My goal is to, for a while at least, just a little bit, become a forensic scientist and eventually, maybe, straight out of college, hopefully, maybe, we'll find out, start my own science and tech company. That is like a really big dream of mine. But yeah, like Deshaun said, or Dijon, I am a comic connoisseur, if I do say so myself, you know. And no, I just read a lot of comics, like an unhealthy amount of comics. And I play a lot of video games, also an unhealthy amount. So yeah.
Yeah, so we'll start the podcast off with what media we've been consuming recently. I'll let actually no, I'll start off.
Yeah.
So recently, I haven't been playing video games as much as I was a couple weeks ago, back when Ghost of Tsushima came out. But I've taken a break from that, and I've been watching a lot of TV. And I'm reading almost every day, all the time, so that's always something I'm doing. I've been watching specifically JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, because me and Amir have talked about this. That is low-key the reason why this podcast is happening right now. Like, I came up with the idea to start a podcast months ago, like last year at some point. But it was JoJo's Bizarre Adventure that really, like, lit a fire inside me that made me start drawing a lot more than I was before, and start working on this podcast even harder, and actually get to the point where I'm like, okay, we need to start recording. Because if I keep pushing back the record time, then I'm just never going to end up recording.
Right.
So, the big reason why we're even recording this right now is because JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I recently watched Ghost in the Shell, which I plan on talking about a lot more about that later, so I'm going to save that conversation for later. But a thing I've been reading recently is a manga called Burn the Witch, which is by written and drawn by Tite Kubo, who's the creator of Bleach. And this is a miniseries that is also having an anime coming out in October. I think October 30th, the same day that The Mandalorian comes back. And it's going to be on Crunchyroll. And it supposedly takes place in the same world as Bleach, but it's like I feel like, I don't know if it's country by country or like certain regions have their like section of this, like the soul society or like the afterlife that they have to like protect. And supposedly the area that Burn the Witch takes place in London. So it's like the European branch, like one of the European branches of like the soul society or something like that. And it started off interesting, but the more it goes on, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't finished the chapter, but the current chapter I'm on is the last chapter. It's only 5 chapters. Like, I thought it was gonna be like 10 when they said miniseries, but no, it's like way shorter than that. It got super interesting, like really fast. Like, the biggest, like, they basically hunt dragons. That's kind of the idea. And there's like 2 different types of dragons. There's dark dragons and there's light dragons. So witches and wizards do use light dragons. And at first the dragons looked weird, and that kind of turned me off until they started introducing stronger dragons. And the stronger are, the cooler they look.
Okay.
And they look pretty cool, and their power sets are pretty cool, and it just started getting really interesting, and I'm kind of upset that it's ending. And maybe
Mhm.
potentially he'll decide to continue the series. But yeah, that's what I've been consuming. You can go ahead.
Okay. I have been mainly playing Marvel's Avengers, the new Marvel game. That is amazing. I love this game so much. I've been playing it almost every single day since it came out. I got it 3 days early on the first because I bought the digital deluxe edition. And I've been playing, I think I've played every day for hours except for yesterday. Yesterday I just had a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, no, I'm very excited about the future of this game. I'm very excited about this game in general. I'm having so much fun with this game. Um, Other than the Avengers, I can't say I've been watching anything recently. I did start rewatching Star Wars Rebels again, which is personally it's some of my favorite Star Wars. I know it got a lot of hate when it first came out, but it's finally starting to get a lot of like the love that it needs and deserves. I'm happy about that. I'm rewatching it
I
now.
loved it, but because what I specifically did was I went to YouTube, and Ahsoka is my favorite Star Wars character, so I just
Mm,
watched literally like a compilation of every scene she's in.
okay.
I haven't watched the show, but I have an idea. I like understand the story based on what part of the story Ahsoka's in. But
Okay.
I plan on watching it eventually because I hear it's pretty good. Because like you said, it got hate at first, and because of that,
Mm.
I was like, I'm not gonna watch it. But
I was one of the first.
now that people are saying it's not bad, people are just tripping. I was like, okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, no, it was one of the first. I was one of the first people to hate on the show. Like I was like, "Oh, this looks so dumb." Like off the first
Yeah,
trailer,
animation
Ezra looked
style.
like a.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say like Ezra looked like an off-brand Luke Skywalker, and like I was like, this show does not look good at all. And I'm fine with the animation style because I know you were about to start talking about that. I'm fine with the animation style personally. It doesn't bother me like the thin lightsabers. I actually kind of like the thin lightsabers because it's based off Ralph McQuarrie's
Yeah.
concept art.
The thing for me was the lightsabers were fine. It was a little odd, but when I was rewatching the first three movies, the lightsabers were thinner in those movies than they were in the trilogy. I'm at the sequel trilogy. I'm at the prequel trilogy. God, there's so many
Mhm.
goddamn movies. Um, yeah, the lightsabers were a little bit thinner, and I didn't even notice that until I rewatched it. But it was just they made them smoother, which I felt like was an odd choice. I understand it because it was unlike the Clone Wars, which slowly got more mature as it went on. This show was aired on Disney XD,
Mm.
so they I feel like they were trying to make it a little bit more kid friendly, and by making the design softer was a
Mm.
part of them making it more kid friendly. So yeah,
I definitely agree with that. I don't know if making the design software was part of making it more kid friendly, although that is a very interesting. I just hadn't thought of that, but it definitely was made to be more kid friendly than the Clone Wars was, at least at first. Excuse me. By the end of season 2, it starts moving like really into like some super dark stuff. I'm not gonna like spoil anything or anything like that, but like stuff starts happening to certain characters. I'm just like, what? I was not expecting this from a
yeah.
kid
I feel
show.
like that's how Star Wars has been from the beginning. It starts off as something for like kids and adults to enjoy, and then it slowly got darker. Especially as
Yeah.
like people started writing novels and started making like some like they started making like some low key, not even low key, like just straight up horror stories based in the
Oh yeah.
universe. I always thought a video game where you play as like uh, a rebellion soldier on a ship, and Vader's there, and you're just trying to hide from him
That'd be
and trying
cool.
to like get to like a escape pod to get off the ship. It's like what's that alien game? That Alien Isolation.
Alien Isolation. Yeah.
Alien Isolation, except instead of an alien, it's Darth Vader.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah. Um. Now I'm thinking. Speaking of Marvel's Avengers, I'm imagining a multiplayer game similar to Avengers, but with Star Wars characters. Less RPG because I'm not a big fan of just RPG most things.
Mm.
God of War is the closest thing to being an RPG that I enjoy immensely, and I'm actually thinking of replaying it because I've been watching somebody play it for the first time, and I started New Game Plus and upped the difficulty, and
Okay.
it's first off, even though I have all of the things I had when I beat the game the first time, still hard. When I upped the difficulty thinking because I have all these weapons and all these upgrades and I'm already so powerful. If I played it on normal, which I was planning on, I think it's called balance, I would just wreck stuff. But so I upped the difficulty thinking that would like balance it. But it didn't. It just straight up made it harder.
Okay.
And the one thing I haven't done that I plan to do after beating the game again is defeating the Valkyrie Queen, Sigrun, because you have to fight like 6 Valkyries before you get to her, and it's hard. I've seen some people like post videos or something about how hard that boss battle is. I got so close. I had like 5 or 6 hits until she died, and I died. And I lost, and I put the controller down and said, "I'm done." That game came out 2 years ago. I still have not beaten that up.
Okay. I remember.
If I put enough time, I could. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I get frustrated with video games easily. So, like, if something's, like, too hard for me and I try and I die, like, 10 times, I'll stop playing for the day and I'll go back and try the next day. If the same thing happens, I'll keep doing it. I remember trying to beat Dishonored, the first Dishonored, on, like, the hardest difficulty, and I still haven't done it. I'm on, like, the final mission, and I was trying to do it with, like, no kills, hardest difficulty. I can't seem to do it. And, like, I had to put that game down for quite a while because I was trying to do it on the hardest difficulty, and it's just...
Yeah, I'm just having flashbacks about that boss battle. Yeah, let's move on to the next segment, which is basically current events as it pertains to storytelling. And 2 things that have been happening recently are the kind of a boost in the Black Lives Matter movement. And recently Chadwick Boseman passed away due to cancer. If I'm not mistaken, it was colon cancer.
Yes, it was.
And he had been fighting it for 4 years. And he made 10 movies within those 4 years?
I think about, yeah.
Which is insane to think about. And he just, no one knew other than his immediate family and some, friends he told. And the fact that he was able to just pretty much behave and walk around and act like normally. And do his job while being that sick is insane. And of course, this being a storytelling podcast, we're going to start talking about Black Panther specifically, because admittedly, I don't think I've seen any other movie with Chadwick Boseman. I've only seen Black Panther, and there is a movie on Netflix with a minute that I've planned on watching eventually. But Black Panther is, I've criticized it because I felt like T'Challa specifically isn't as cool of a character in it as he was in
Civil War. Right.
Not to say he was bad, he just wasn't as cool. Like just overwhelmingly badass. He was just overall, because in Civil War he had a mission and he knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to kill Bucky. For what he did. He just wanted to kill Bucky. If you're watching this and you haven't seen Civil War, I don't know what to say. The moment I said it, you should have knew I was going to spoil it.
Right.
But
that movie is 4 years old at this point. Yeah, it's on you.
He wanted to kill Bucky because he thought that he caused the explosion that killed his father.
Right.
And I feel like with that, him having a clear defined goal and direction is what gave him power and made him so interesting. And I feel like in Black Panther, he didn't have that. But that doesn't take away from how great of a Black Panther that Chadwick was. Because like I said, he was great in Civil War. He was fantastic. And he did something for just the Black culture as a whole by showing Black guys like us, young Black men, that we can be kings, we can be superheroes. Because there's not many Black superheroes on the big screen. Before him, it was Falcon and War Machine, but they were basically relegated to side characters. Now Falcon's about to become Captain America, and that's gonna be dope. But Black Panther had his own movie and a cast where it was majority black people. It was like what, 2, 3 white people in that movie?
About it
Yeah,
might have been less.
yeah, it might. Yeah, it might have been. I think in the main cast of people that actually mattered, it was only 2.
Yeah, it was Claw and Ross.
Yeah, so it was only 2 white people in that movie that mattered,
Right.
and it showed the world that we can make over $1 billion. You can have a movie with just our faces, just black people, not even just majority black people, but specifically centered around African culture,
Mm.
and you could still make over $1 billion. And most of that is because damn near every black person on the planet went to go see that movie.
Right.
And I feel like the fact that it was based in Africa made it more accessible for other people, because instead of it just being some black American superhero, it was a black African superhero. So the
Right.
place where majority of the black people are, Africa, I can only imagine. I'm gonna have to look this up. What the statistics were of like African people watching Black Panther and how
Okay.
much they contribute to like how much money it made. But yeah, you have anything to say about that?
Uh, I mean, I think you pretty much took it all. Like, I'm definitely
I
one of
feel like I
I
talked way too much.
I definitely prefer Black Panther in Civil War personally because you already know a huge stickler for comic accuracy, and I felt like he was a lot more comic accurate in Civil War than he was in Black Panther. But Black Panther, I will always, no matter how much I prefer Civil War T'Challa, like Civil War's interpretation of T'Challa, I will always have to like respect immensely what Black Panther as a movie did for our culture and like for us as a people. So
Yeah. We a few days ago we were talking about the sequel and how it was pretty much nearly confirmed that Namor was going to be in the movie
mm,
because they had teased it in Endgame when Okoye said, well, Black Widow said to Okoye something like she didn't check like something in the middle of the ocean, and she was like,
mm,
"Yeah, it's the middle of the ocean. Why would I do that? I'm not that stupid.
right,
Why would I go to the middle of the ocean? That has nothing to do with me or my country."
right,
um, and before that, before Endgame came out, there were rumors that Namor was going to be the villain in Black Panther 2, at least the anti-hero. Um,
mm,
which I figured he probably would have been. They probably wouldn't have made him a straight up villain because he is like he's like he's a good foil to T'Challa because they're both kings and they both focus almost entirely solely on their country
right,
and their people. And I felt like the direction they were going with T'Challa was that he was making the country more open to helping other countries instead of hoarding all their technology.
right,
And I felt like Namor was going to be the foil to him in the sense that he was going to be like how Atlantis was going to be how Wakanda used to be. It was going to be secluded and never wanting to share anybody with anything with anybody else. And that they were never going to want people to like invade their land. And I felt like that's
mm,
what Namor and Atlantis was going to be in comparison to T'Challa and Wakanda. And
right,
I'm still excited to see what they're going to do because I really want to see not just Namor, but I want to see Black Panther again. Because
yeah,
I feel like whenever it comes to a sequel of a movie that I liked but felt but there were certain parts of that movie even though I liked it that I didn't like, I always feel like they're going to fix all those problems or at least most of it in the second movie. And I felt like
mm.
that was what was going to happen in Black Panther 2. Also, I feel like I'm dominating this conversation.
No, I'm just trying to let you finish. I'm not trying to like cut it or anything, but
Yeah, I know. Resume when somebody's talking, you try to like let them finish because otherwise
yeah,
it's just us going. But yeah,
over and over and over again.
okay,
Yeah, that's
you can
I'm
go ahead.
always the type of person. Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say like I had a lot of hopes going into Black Panther 2, and like I heard now, I don't know if this is like actually an official announcement or anything, but I heard now that they're supposed to be making Shuri the Black Panther in Black Panther 2, which I'm just like, one, I wasn't a big fan of Shuri as Black Panther in the comics. That was never really like, I wasn't super excited about that. In my opinion, she wasn't a great Black Panther in the comics. I mean, she wasn't Black Panther for that long. So I'm just like, I'm not a big fan of that. And then also, I'm like, if they were to do that, because I'm sure they would have done that eventually in the MCU, but I don't think they would have. Are you just? I don't think they would have made it permanent. Like, I don't think she would have been permanently Black Panther in the MCU. Is that like I don't I don't think it was like time for her to become Black Panther yet. Like, I think this is gonna feel rushed, but it's also like they have no other option at this point.
Yeah, the way I feel about it is, I feel like I actually had this discussion with um when I was working yesterday, when I was in a Slack call. We were talking about how I felt that I don't think that Chadwick would be upset at them recasting T'Challa. And in all honesty,
I don't think that
I feel like it's more disrespectful to somehow kill off or get rid of the character of T'Challa than it is to. I feel like it's more disrespectful to kill him off and have Shuri replace him than respect like the legacy of Black Panther and keep it going and and like recast him. Because I like Shuri. We've talked about. I said she was like one of my favorite parts of that movie. She was one of my favorite characters in that movie. But I still want to see T'Challa. I feel like we still haven't got enough of him. Like I wanted so much more from T'Challa. Like we were talking about Secret Wars earlier. Like eventually we might get a Secret Wars, and T'Challa is a big part of that. I still want him. I still want T'Challa as Black Panthers, and I feel like it's more disrespectful to replace him than it is to just continue his legacy and have him recast. I don't know who they would recast, but who they would cast as him, but I don't want to see him replaced. I still want to see T'Challa in the movies.
See, I disagree with that simply because of the fact that it's just like Chadwick personally is what brought the character to life. I personally don't think it would be respectful to just recast him. I'm also still don't think it would be respectful just to kill him off and hand over the mantle. I don't know. I'm in the boat where I just want them to like CGI him. Like they can do good CGI. They've done it in movies before, and they have more than enough money to do a CGI Black Panther for the entire movie. What?
That is the last thing I expected you to say. I thought you were going to have an alternate choice for who should replace Black Panther. I did not think you were going to go they should just CGI replace him. They should just add him in, like, what is it called? I forget what it's called, but no, I don't think they should do that either. I think that's just that would just be too weird. I just think that would be too odd, and that would be weird. And also, I think that we're forgetting, like, yeah, he brought a lot to the character, and he is Black Panther, but he was only in 2 movies. Like I said, I'm not trying to take anything away from him because, like I said, I loved him as Black Panther, and I wanted to see more from him in Black Panther because I loved him in Civil War. But I still want to see that character continued, even if it's by someone else. And I don't think his connection to the character was so strong that he can't be recast. And I don't think he would be upset at the fact that he's being recast. He would be like, I'm gone. People love Black Panther. People need Black Panther. He should keep going.
I disagree. I feel like he was just and this might be a hot take. It also might not. I don't know because I've seen like things tell me about it. What'd you say?
I said some people definitely agree with you.
I definitely think that he was as influential as Black Panther as RDJ was as Iron Man. And if you can't recast Iron Man, you can't recast him.
I knew. The thing is, how I feel about it is, one, I think it's completely different because I feel like RDJ has been playing Iron Man for over 10 years. His connection to that character is much stronger because now whenever we see Iron Man in anything, it's you can't see anybody but Robert Downey Jr.
Okay.
Like even with some other Marvel characters, I could still imagine other people playing those characters. But with Iron Man, I can't imagine anyone else other than RDJ.
I can't imagine anyone else other than Chadwick.
I could. The reason I could is because I feel like I said, I felt like it wasn't long enough for me to feel that connection to where he is my only Black Panther. I feel like because it was only 2 movies and 4 years of him being Black Panther, to me it was just like
it was 4 movies, 4 years.
Like I'm trying to because I don't want to sound like I'm being disrespectful to this man. I'm saying like I enjoyed like him as the character. I just feel like it has to keep going. Like, yeah, he died, but at the end of the day, like, he isn't the character. He's an actor. He plays the character.
Yeah.
Not actually Black Panther. He was a great man, and Black Panther is a great character. But, you know, actors are meant to play as a person, and I think somebody else could do it just as much justice as him. And after a while, we would grow to love that person, just like we grew to love Chadwick Boseman, because I know probably a good amount of people who saw Black Panther, much like myself, didn't really know who Chadwick Boseman was until that point. And that's when I started hearing about all the other movies he's been in, and how he's pretty much known for playing a lot of famous Black characters or people. That he's done tons of biopics of you know, people who actually existed, like Jackie Robinson and James Brown. On top of the fact that he plays on top of the fact that he plays pretty much the most famous Black superhero on the planet.
Right.
He's known for playing those type of characters. And I feel like I keep saying, like, T'Challa is he's a character that I can't see them not. Well, I guess I can see it because apparently they're about to just kill him off and have Shuri play him, which I feel like that's the happy medium between what I want and what you want. Because I just want them to recast them. You want them to do the CGI, and they're just like, no, we're not going to do any of that. We're just gonna have Shuri become Black.
Right.
But yeah, that's all I have to really say about it.
You're back.
Yeah. So, you know, we'll see what they do with Black Panther. So, you know, I feel like, if anything, I don't want the CGI. That's definitely what I don't want. I want them to recast him because I want T'Challa in the movies. I just want him. I don't want Shuri as Black Panther. But at the very least, Shuri as Black Panther. Because I want T'Challa, but if I can't have T'Challa, I'll take Shuri. I don't want T'Challa there, but for him to be CGI. It would be funny if they did T'Challa, but he always had the mask on. So it was someone like doing an impression of Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, and he always had the mask on. Or anytime he took the mask off, they only showed the back of his head. Like, anytime he took the mask off, it was only the back of his head. So occasionally, when they do show his face as CGI, it's like really good CGI to where you can't tell if it's fake or not. But for the most part, it's he has a mask on. I could accept that, actually. I could accept that he always had his mask on for the most part, and when he took it off, you only saw the back of his head. That way, they wouldn't have to show his face. But even then, they would still have someone else playing Black Panther, technically. So I feel like at that point, it might as well just be a new person. Like, I understand that people could only see him as Black Panther. And I feel like, unlike Iron Man, because Iron Man already had so much time, Robert Downey Jr. passed away, it would make more sense for them to just kill the character off 100% and have someone else become Iron Man, or just have no one be Iron Man, and Iron Man just passed away. I feel like it would be, because he had already been in so many movies, and he's already been Iron Man for so long, I understand that more. But because Black Panther, I haven't had enough of him. Like, I love Black Panther, and I feel like I haven't had enough of him. So I need more of him. That's why I want them to recast him, because I don't feel like I've had enough of Black Panther. I've had enough of Iron Man. So him dying off they killed him in Endgame because RDJ passed away. I would have been accepting of that because he'd been Iron Man already for 10 years. But in this case, he hasn't been around long enough. T'Challa hasn't been around long enough for me to be okay with them replacing the character of Black Panther with another person.
Okay. I still disagree. I still don't think he can be recast. But I understand that. I understand that.
But like I said, if they did it the way you're saying, I want it to be where he never takes his mask off. He always has his mask on.
Okay.
But yeah, but the Black Lives Matter movement, and that in relation to just Black people in general, I wanted to talk about Black people and minorities in general being represented in popular media, like video games, movies, TV shows, comics, and how we're obviously severely underrepresented. Recently, in video games specifically, we've seen an influx of female protagonists with characters like Chloe in Uncharted becoming the main character. I'm not going to spoil anything because I know you haven't played Lost Legacy, but I already told you that Chloe was the main character. It's her and another character from the series.
Okay.
And,
almost there, not there yet.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say anything, but you're almost there. So, but once you actually, whenever you finish the Uncharted series, we're gonna have an episode where we talk about Uncharted. Because for the people watching this, Uncharted is probably my favorite video game series of all time, and my favorite video game of all time is Uncharted 2. Among these, that's my favorite video game. But Lara Croft, they rebooted Tomb Raider. The first 2 games were good. The last one was
I didn't play the last one. I'm excited to, but I played the first one.
Like from out here, it's good, but it's just in comparison to the first 2, it's just not as good. And even then, the first 2 got some slack because I hear even from what I saw, because I haven't played personally, I've watched people play it, but the gameplay looks phenomenal, but they say the story was lackluster. Have you played the second one?
I've played the second one a little bit at an old friend's house. I owned the first one. I still haven't beat the first one, but I was seeing like the full playthrough of the first one. But I've played the second one. I feel like, and I might just be having this wrong, I feel like the problem with the story in both of them is that it just drags on a little too long. Like they try to incorporate too much story into sections where story just does not need to be. Basically, the entire story is kind of just like Laura being stuck on an island while trying to find like an item, and then there's a villain on the island also trying to find this item, and then they actually try to incorporate story in that. I think in the first one actually she winds up getting like stuck on the island, like crashing, and like her whole crew or almost her whole crew is like dead.
I played the entirety of the first one when it was
okay.
Because if I'm not mistaken, it released on PS3 360, and then a remastered version was released on PS4 and Xbox One. Well, I don't know if it was a remastered. I think it was called the Definitive Edition. I think it was just upscaled. It wasn't necessarily remastered. But I played the first one. I liked the first one. The first one was fun. So I just wasn't that into the Tomb Raider series, mostly because even though it came before Uncharted, but since this was a reboot, it just paled in comparison to Uncharted.
Okay.
It was basically, for me, in reality, it's the other way around, but like a female-driven Uncharted, when in reality, Uncharted is just a
male-driven Tomb Raider.
But I felt like Lost Legacy did basically what the reboot was trying to do, but better, because the mechanics and storytelling of Uncharted all around is just better than the rebooted Tomb Raider. I don't think they were bad. I just think that the Uncharted series is just too good. It was just too
feel like
to compete with them, but I still think those games were good, though. The Tomb Raider games were good. And I think with the third one, I think they ended the series. If I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure they ended the series.
They might have. Let me check on that real quick.
But while you check on that, we got sidetracked. But this is about specifically minorities representation in video games, specifically as Black men. We're going to talk about Black people. And like I said, there's an influx of female protagonists in video games. Aloy in Horizon Zero Dawn, Chloe, Lara Croft coming back, and tons of other characters like Ellie from last month. How could I forget about her? But
they're making a fourth Tomb Raider game.
Oh, Actually, I'm happy they're making a fourth one, because if they make a fourth one, I might play the second one and the third one, or I might just straight up just play the fourth one, because I already know what happens in the other two. So I might just play the fourth one when it comes out, because I have no doubt in my mind that it'll probably be good, because those games aren't
I
bad.
feel like I haven't played a bad Tomb Raider reboot.
Yeah,
I feel like they've all been good.
None of them are bad by any means. The story just, like you said, it drags on a bit.
Mm.
So I feel like if they could solve that problem, the fourth game could be amazing.
Yeah.
When it comes to black people in video games, there's a black person in Uncharted Lost Legacy. She's a main character. You don't play as her, though. That's the problem. The black person is always there, but you never play as them. They're never, like, even if you do play as them, it's as like a DLC secondary character type thing. They're never
I'm immediately thinking of Adewale from from Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Yeah, they're always the sidekick. They're never the main character. Whether it's in a movie or a TV show too. They're the sidekick, never the main character. Whereas, and we're getting that, and even then, to an extent, like in the true sequel to the Spider-Man game, Miles Morales, even though he's most likely going to be a playable character, he's still kind of going to be playing second fiddle with Peter Parker.
Right.
But he's getting his own standalone game now, which is dope. This is going to be the first time in a long time that we get the main character of this game that you play as is not even just black. He's mixed. He's black and Hispanic.
Right.
Like, he's black and Latino. So the main character is going to be a minority, and we need to see that so much more. And I feel like, much like how Black Panther made over $1 billion and showed people that our face, this skin color, sells.
To make money, yeah.
Because we've already seen that Spider-Man PS4 broke records in terms of how much money it made and how many copies it sold. And people have been wanting a sequel. Well, of course, like, immediately after playing everyone was like, they got to make another one. And of course, they're making another one. We know they're making another one by the simple fact that they made this expansion, which is its own separate game. But like Uncharted Lost Legacy with Chloe Frazier as the main character, it's going to be shorter than the main game. And it's going to be it's going to be retooling a lot of the things from the original game. That's exactly what Uncharted Lost Legacy is. It's basically an individual story from Uncharted 4, but with all the same mechanics, but new characters and a new story. And it's different enough to be called its own game and be praised as its own game. But it's like 1 inch away from being DLC.
Pretty much.
It's like
they didn't even give him a new area of city.
It's like they started making DLC, even though they obviously planned it for it to be like its separate thing from the beginning. Like, if I had to come up with an analogy for it, it's like they started making DLC, and then halfway through was like, we might as well just make this a whole game.
It feels like Assassin's Creed Rogue to me, because that's how Assassin's Creed Rogue was supposed to be a DLC for Black Flag, and then just wound up becoming its own game.
Yeah, that's basically.
And this is exactly what this feels like.
Basically, what this is, it's like it's kind of DLC, but it's also its own thing at the same time. Yeah. But I'm excited to see how he's different from Peter, because he's no doubt very similar in majority of the ways. He's literally he's Spider-Man. He could turn into people and he could like electrocute you, but he's still Spider-Man. I think those two things by themselves is enough to differentiate him, and I feel like it would have been if Peter didn't have a bunch of different tools that allowed him to pretty much do the same thing. There's literally, isn't that like an ability that makes him turn invisible in the game, I think?
I don't know if it makes him no, it makes him harder to see. It doesn't make him turn invisible. It just makes him harder to see. That's the ability from his big time suit.
That's
basically what it.
And he has weapons that electrocute you. So I'm just wondering.
He has a ridiculous amount of webs that electrocute. Like there's like 3 different things on the weapon wheel. Yeah, I'm wondering how they're gonna make Miles different. Like, it'll be cool just to, even if he played exactly how Peter played, it's the story itself that would have been the most interesting part of, exploring Miles as a character. Even if he played the same, just getting more Spider-Man in general was going to be cool. But since I'm feeling it might be
because it's basically like Spider-Man 1.5. That's basically kind of what it is. I have a feeling there's going to be some things we see in this game that are going to kind of clue us into how the second game's going to play.
Oh, yeah. This is like our second look. Aside from the comics, the tie-in comics, this is our second look at the universe.
Yeah. I feel like there's going to be some mechanics in this game that are kind of an evolution of what we had in the first game. It's going to be a sequel in that sense, that I feel like there are going to be some enhanced mechanics that we're going to see carry on into the second game.
Right.
You might even get a, what is it called? Maybe like an after credit scene that hints at what's going to happen in the second game. Maybe they show Venom or Green Goblin.
That'd be cool.
That would be dope. Because they're both definitely going to be in the sequel, and I'm excited for it.
I wouldn't even mind if... No. Actually, it'd be cool if, like, the end of the Miles Morales game either had Green Goblin or had Venom just, like, pop out at the end, kind of like the Darth Vader boss fight from Jedi Fallen Order, because both characters are really integral to Miles's origin, at least his original origin back in Ultimate Comics, because Venom killed his mom back in Ultimate Comics, and Green Goblin was the person that turned Miles into Spider-Man. Like, he was the one that killed Peter Parker and gave Miles the opportunity to become Spider-Man. And even in Ultimate Comics, when Peter Parker comes back to life, it's Green Goblin was like a big part of that. And even now in Miles's current run in comics, Ultimate Green Goblin is back and doing all the is like doing a bunch of stuff. And it's really weird because he's like
Ultimate, like big.
Yeah, the big Ultimate like Green Goblin is back.
He's in the main universe now.
Okay. Did you read Spider-Man 2?
I didn't.
Okay. The entire premise around Spider-Man 2 was that back after the first Spider-Man where Peter went to the Ultimate Universe, now, of course, Miles is in 616 because Secret Wars happened and everything. So now they're both part of the same universe. And they both had a question of who Miles Morales' 616 counterpart originally was. And so they find out, and this story came out years ago. Can I just like spoil it? Like, do you really care?
I actually know the part about the like alternate Miles that was like a crime boss or something like that.
Yeah, he was Wilson Fisk's best friend. And it's kind of like how they did in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where Wilson Fisk wanted to search the multiverse to find Vanessa and Richard. This Miles wants to search the multiverse to find a universe with his wife, where his wife is alive, because his wife died, I think, of cancer in the 616 universe. And so while Miles and Peter are like trying to like go and move heaven and earth, and they're like beating up like all his underlings like under him, and they're doing all this stuff, he doesn't even care. He's just trying to go find the universe that his wife is in. And so I don't know what they did with it specifically, but it was basically the Ultimate Universe is where his wife was. Because you know how the Ultimate Universe had like their own font style and had their own like art style and everything?
Yeah.
It was like that. Like the universe that he wound up going into at the end of Spider-Man 2 was like that. And it had like the text font and it had like the unique art style and stuff like that. And he goes in 616 Miles with like all the scars on his face and everything, goes in, opens the door of the cafe, sees his wife, who of course doesn't recognize him, doesn't know him because it's a different universe. And he sits down and he asks her to like coffee, or asks her if he can buy her a drink or something like that. She's like, yeah, and they're like talking, and then there's like a big explosion with the Avengers outside. And she was like, you're gonna or like she says something, he was like, oh man, I'm used to that, or something like that. And he's just like, it leaves off where it's like he's supposed to have this happy life, or at least you assume he is, with his wife and everything. But in this in the new Miles Morales series, the current one's going on, which is great, by the way. You should totally read that. I love the series. Yeah. There's a new villain on the block called Ultimatum, and he's wearing like some weird suit. I'm not a fan of his suit. It kind of looks dumb to me. But he's able to grow like super big, like Giant Man, and he has a vibranium Captain America shield, but it's not colored red, white, and blue. It's just colored I think it's just like silver with like a red star in the middle. And he has taken Miles down once, and then he also brought back Ultimate Green Goblin. Ultimate Green Goblin destroyed Miles' school, or at least part of Miles' school, looking for Miles, and Miles had to step in, and they fought at the school. And there was like a big, they destroyed a large portion of the school. He went after him again, just like randomly. Like I think Miles was just like randomly swinging, and he just like came and like snatched him out of the air, and that's when we see Ultimatum.
That Man-Bat jump scare in Arkham Knight.
That's kind of what it felt like.
When you it happens when you get a certain portion through the beginning of the game, and you it doesn't matter
grapple onto a building.
What building is, you grapple to the building, and he just comes over the edge and screams in your face and starts flying off. And the first time that happened, and I was just like, was that Man Bat?
I think I screamed. Like, it was one of the only jump scares. Jump scares don't get me that often, but I think it was like one of the only jump scares
You're
where
not
I
playing
actually
a horror game. You weren't expecting a jump scare. You're playing Batman. You were playing Batman, and you were just minding your business. And he came literally out of nowhere.
Exactly. In Batman, in the Arkham series, you are the predator. In that one, you felt like the prey for a second. Like, you were like, wait a minute, hold on. Not used to the table was flipping.
I feel like there was, I won't go too far off on its tangent, but I feel like there was a lot of really cool ideas in Arkham Knight that they didn't go far enough with in terms of...
Or they just botched completely.
Because I feel like because they didn't have traditional boss fights, they missed the opportunity to have so many boss fights. Because there were so many villains in Gotham.
Right.
Everybody was excited for that Deathstroke boss fight that never happened.
It was a tank, but I'm still mad about that.
And
like, I don't understand how you have like the best boss fight in the series. What'd you say?
Was the dude with the pig mask?
Oh, Professor Pig.
That was the closest to an actual boss fight we had in that game.
Yeah.
And even then, it was barely a boss fight. But anyway, Miles Morales. I feel like it is having the Ultimate Universe Green Goblin be one of Miles, basically, I feel like, in a sense, basically become kind of his arch nemesis. Literally become what Green Goblin is to the main Spider-Man, to Peter Parker. And just have the Ultimate Spider-Man be that, but for Miles specifically, is actually really dope. Did you say Venom killed his mother?
What'd you say?
Did you say Venom killed his mother in Ultimate Universe?
Yeah, Venom killed his mom in the Ultimate Universe.
I did not know that.
Yeah. That was like a big thing. He stopped being Spider-Man for a few years.
I stopped reading Ultimate Spider-Man.
I didn't start reading Ultimate Spider-Man. I actually don't think I read Ultimate Spider-Man. Like, all this stuff I know is from like Comic Story because I didn't read Ultimate Spider-Man. I started reading.
Ultimate Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man. It was the first. I'm sorry. The sun is getting really bright. I'm gonna close my curtains. But Ultimate Spider-Man was the first Spider-Man comic book that I really got into, and it's the reason I like Spider-Man so much.
I didn't read Ultimate Spider-Man. I mean, I just started reading Ultimate Spider-Man not too long ago, but Miles is one of my favorite comic book characters of all time, and I started reading him after 2015, I think, when he was part of the 616 universe already. So, like, he's done, like, a complete 180 of his growth as a character, like, and I've gotten to see, like, the good part of that as opposed to the bad side of that, which is great to me, because, like, beforehand, he was just, like, a copy-paste version of Peter Parker, but now I saw the little blind going in and out, like, the light coming in. Now he's become, like, his own complete character with, like, he has his own villains, he has his... I'm sorry, the little light thing was just so funny. He has his own villains, he has his own, like, stories and allies and stuff like that, and I got to see that as opposed to have to wait for it.
When I first saw, because it was definitely after I'd seen the first Spider-Man movie, and there was stuff with Spider-Man cartoons, so I knew what the original Green Goblin looked like, and I've read a few Spider-Man comic books now and again, but it wasn't. But seeing how when I first saw the Green Goblin in that universe, I was like, "Is that the Hulk?" And then I was like, "No, that's not the Hulk. That's the Green Goblin." And then what's the Hobgoblin? Who was the Hobgoblin in that universe? Because I know he was also a
Hobgoblin monster. The original Hobgoblin was Ned Leeds.
No, I'm saying in that universe, was it the original or was it Harry?
I think the original was Harry. I think.
Yeah, because I could be wrong with that. Who was the Hobgoblin in that universe? I just remember there was another big buff Green Goblin, but he was orange. But yeah, it would be cool. Actually, speaking of the Green Goblin's design, I actually wanted to segue into that. I wonder, based on like the armor that we saw, like the Goblin armor we saw in the game, I wonder what the final product of the Green Goblin will look like in that universe.
Honestly, I'm a big fan of the Ultimate Green Goblin look, where he's just like a giant, like actual monster with like wings and stuff like that.
I
I like that,
I like
but
I think
I
they
know
did
they're
it
doing.
better. I think they did it better in Into the Spider-Verse, honestly.
I like that too. Like, it doesn't matter if he's like super buff or if he like looks like an actual dragon or something. I just like the more like beastly animalistic
I like that too.
version.
But the reason I like the original so much is because he could then hide it.
Yeah,
If they did the big hulking beast thing, but he could turn back into a human, that would be even cooler. Because
that's what they.
that's part of Osborn's character. He's like Lex Luthor. He hides all the evil stuff that he does. So
Right.
if he could control his transformation in and out of that big green monster, that would be even cooler. Because then he would be constantly, making Miles or Peter or whoever look like an idiot trying to out him.
Right.
Constantly trying to say, this dude's the Green Goblin, he's evil. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm just a regular dude.
That's what he was in Ultimate Comics. Like he did have, he was able to turn back and forth, kind of like the Hulk. But I don't remember if at a certain point, I think it was at a certain point that he was able, like he stopped being able to like turn back. Or maybe that's the like actual, that's the current Miles series. That might be it. Because I know Ultimatum has him on like a sort of leash. Like he has him as his main henchman, which is also another really cool concept. But I definitely like, I really do want them to eventually go down the route where he's like a beast or something. Like maybe like the final mission of the second Spider-Man game, he's like, oh, this tech isn't enough. He just like grabs a goblin serum like off the counter, just like chugs it and becomes like a big hulking green goblin. I would like that. Like I would personally love that. That'd be really cool to see.
I'm about to look up what this suit looks like in the video game because I can't remember.
I don't think they showed the whole thing. I think they only showed like a little bit of the tech. I think maybe we saw the glider and we saw the helmet.
Yeah, we saw the glider and we saw a blueprint of the helmet. We saw the bombs. That's what we saw.
Yeah.
We saw the bombs and we saw the glider and the helmet.
But I don't think we saw like the torso or like the leg armor or anything.
No, we didn't see any of that part. But I'm just imagining what it'll look like. I like the his original design a lot, and I was actually thinking of doing my own, drawing up my own redesign of what he could look like if he was in the MCU.
Okay.
But
I don't know. I like every time Green Goblin's brought up, I'm just like, I just want hulking Green Goblin. I just want like giant, like storybook monster Green Goblin.
I wonder if they'll bring him back into the Spider-Verse universe because I know he died along with Peter, like he did in comics and the movie. But I wonder if
he died like instantly. Like that was like no joke. That was just like the first.
They both died instantly.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Anybody
no, Green Goblin died before Spider-Man did.
Yeah, anybody who knew anything about Miles Morales knew that Spider-Man was gonna die. I went into the movie going, Peter Parker's gonna die. Of course he is. And it's called Into the Spider-Verse, so another version of him will come back. That's exactly what's gonna happen. That's exactly what happened. But yeah, let's move on to the part that we had to hold off talking about earlier because we were so excited. We're gonna go into our news section where we'll talk about news about TV shows, film, video games, animation, or whatever. We're gonna start off with the Ubisoft Forward event.
Yes.
Because we want to talk about Prince of Persia, and I feel like actually I want to hear your opinion because I didn't get it and I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, because you come. Yeah.
I wasn't sure what your opinion was because I cut you off because we got to say that for the podcast. So go ahead.
Okay. I want to start this off by saying, of course, I'm going to buy it. I didn't own any of the original Prince of Persia games. I played them. I didn't own them. And I loved them.
Same.
So, of course, I'm going to buy this. And I still don't own them, but of course, I'm going to buy this. If they'd like remake the whole series, I'm buying every single remake they do. However, this looks like a re-release, not a remake.
Thank you.
They did not change anything from what we've seen. They did not change graphics. They didn't change gameplay.
From looking at it, they did actually, the animations are different. The environments look, obviously they're it's a remake, so they're not completely making something new. So everything's going to look similar to the way it used to look. But it doesn't feel like a remake, mostly because a lot of people are trying to defend it. And it's like when people tried to defend Halo, and I was like, how can you defend a clearly unfinished product?
Right.
it's very obvious that it's not. Either it's not finished or they didn't put all of their effort into it. Because it doesn't look like a modern game. And people are saying,
at all.
Everybody's like, it doesn't need to be realistic. And I'm like, Breath of the Wild is the most stylized game you'll ever play in your life. But that looks better than this Prince of Persia remake. Because
when I think remake
was kind of cartoony. It wasn't like a super realistic looking game. They could have still did that and made it look good. And you know what's a great example of them, of Ubisoft specifically making a cartoony looking game that looks beautiful? Literally the game that's about to come out in December, that Phoenix Rising. They're pretty much
I completely forgot that game. I keep forgetting that game. It's coming out.
Their version of Breath of the Wild. And it is proof that they can make a super stylized video game that looks really good and plays really good. It actually looks pretty good. I wasn't all that into it at first, but the more I see it, the more I'm interested. But after seeing the Immortal Phoenix, it used to be called Gods and Monsters.
I remember when it was called Gods and Monsters.
Which, in my opinion, was a better name, but the new name is a little weird, but it looks good. It looks fun. And after seeing that, I'm like, why couldn't you do that for Prince of Persia? They have been Prince of Persia. There are two franchises of theirs that they've just been disrespecting.
Splinter Cell and Prince of Persia.
Splinter Cell.
Yeah.
They've been disrespecting some of their most popular franchises that everybody is just like, bro, if they just straight up made a new Prince of Persia game or a new Splinter Cell, they would make so much money.
I was actually talking to Tyler about this. If you're watching the podcast, you don't know. He's a mutual friend of ours. Tyler and I were talking about this a few days ago. I think it was maybe 2 days ago. We were talking about the Prince of Persia game. And I was like, if they made a sequel, do you remember the 2008 Prince of Persia game where it was the guy with like the curved sword and he had the red scarf and the blue scarf?
In terms of art style, that one looked really good. I feel like they could have lent, like that was a very stylized game. I feel like they have so many examples of how they've done a super stylized game really well for them to make this game look like an early like 360 PS3 era video game, which is super weird.
Right. I was just like, no, Tyler and I were talking about this. This is a concept that I thought of for like if they were to make a new Prince of Persia. Take both princes from the Sands of Time series and from the attempted reboot, which I thought it was pretty good. It got mixed reviews. I liked it enough. I thought it was pretty good. And like put them together, make it like a co-op optional game, a co-op optional Prince of Persia game with both princes as protagonists, and like combine those stories. That would be great. They could do that as a sequel.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You can go ahead.
I was gonna say, and instead they're putting out a game that is. You said there's difference in graphics. I don't see difference in graphics personally. Like I went back and went and looked at the original Prince of Persia and like looking back at this, I'm like, I'm not seeing a difference at all. When I think remake, I think of what Resident Evil did. Those Resident Evil games, those are remakes of games. Those aren't like reskins. Those
Pyro or Crash.
Exactly. Those are like remakes. This just looks, in my opinion, it looks like a re-release. Of course, I'm gonna buy it. It looks like it's not looking like a remake.
Like if they said this was a remaster, I'd be wow. That looks good. Like if they said that was a remaster, I would say that's a really good remaster. Because in comparison,
I wouldn't even look at it as a remake.
I feel like with most remasters, the models themselves never look better, but the environments always do. When they remaster something, I feel like almost always the environments look like 10 times better than they used to. And I think the environments in the short gameplay and a little like developers commentary we got, the environments look better.
I didn't see the gameplay. I only saw the announcement.
They didn't show that much gameplay. It was like a few seconds of gameplay. It was mostly just the developers talking about it.
Okay.
And they showed a little bit of the mocap. Showing mocap to prove to us that they actually remade it. That's basically they were showing us mocap to prove we actually remade this game. This isn't a remaster. Because it was the original, the voice actor, he was in like a mocap suit.
Okay. I still feel like they should like graphics overhaul and like show like, because in my opinion, just in my personal opinion, it does not look like they remade anything from this game. Like it literally looks like they just went they were like, oh, okay, here's all the coding for the original game. Just copy, paste, put it on a disc. Here you go. Like that's what it feels like to me. I don't know. Like it doesn't feel like an actual remake to me.
Yeah.
I'm just like
The idea that you said about the like combining the universes, somebody else came up with an idea, but ever since, because of like the idea that Assassin's Creed goes throughout time, somebody's like, what if you just went to Persia in Assassin's Creed? And you either
actually that's how the Assassin's Creed series started.
I know that's how it started, and it was like,
Yeah.
like what if you met the prince in Persia in Assassin's Creed? You went to ancient Persia in one of the Assassin's Creed games, and as the assassin, whoever you are, you're playing as, you meet the prince, and like he's one of your allies, like one of the main characters of the game.
That'd actually be kind of cool.
And I was like, I feel like Assassin's Creed and Prince of Persia crossover is just obvious.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, like that's literally like Assassin's Creed literally started as a game about, oh, what if we make a game about the people or like the secret society that protected the prince, like historically protected the prince, and they were like, oh yeah, but then that wound up evolving into Assassin's Creed. It's just kind of like there's no reason that crossover hasn't happened yet. It's like you made the game from Prince of Persia. And it was originally supposed to be a Prince of Persia spinoff, so what? Like there should have been it. Like at that point,
yeah. Like it felt like if they were gonna cross over any of their franchises, rather than Splinter Cell and Rainbow Six, it should have been.
Yeah, they will do everything with.
They want to do everything.
They'll do everything with Sam Fisher, except for.
I've told you how much I love stealth games. I love Splinter Cell.
Yeah, and I love stealth games too. Yeah.
I love Splinter Cell. I feel like Splinter Cell
They'll do everything.
It's the closest we can get to a Metal Gear game because they're no longer making Metal Gear games. For me,
Right.
it's like I wouldn't say replacement because I played both of them. But because Metal Gear isn't being made anymore, for me, it's like the only really good option for a primarily stealth game.
Right. The only Metal Gear games that I've played, I own Metal Gear Revert, whatever the one with Raiden is, and then I've played Metal Gear Solid 5, which Metal Gear Solid 5 is fun. One of my favorite things to do in that game is the stealth takedowns because they're anything but stealthy. Like you're like karate chop them at the legs, then hit them and like the whole ground will shake.
Slam them onto a wooden floor.
The whole screen just shakes, like, but nobody turns around. Look, Brad.
When he's like, obviously, like, they do this a lot in The Last of Us Part 2, where they show you that in some stealth games you could like hurry up and like quickly sprint across the map to hide from someone. They show you in The Last of Us Part 2, people can hear you run because running is loud.
Yeah.
Especially when you have on a book bag full of equipment and a whole bunch of ammo and guns on you, people can hear you run. So when you start running in The Last of Us, everybody immediately knows you're running. They're like, who's running? What is that noise? But in Metal Gear, he runs so fast and so loud, it makes no sense that no one notices it.
Exactly. It's just like, why?
Metal Gear Solid 5 is such an interesting game because there's a joke that it's okay that you didn't finish Metal Gear Solid 5 because neither did Kojima because he didn't finish the game.
Yeah, I was going to say he left.
And Metal Gear Solid 5, in my opinion, is, in terms of mechanics, is the greatest stealth game ever made. Because it takes literally everything he built up over the last 4 games and other like smaller games that were on like the PSP and things like that. It's the culmination of all of that. It was him taking everything he learned over the course of all of those games and putting it all into one game. And I can't say it would have been, I feel like it would have been better if he finished it, but there still would have been problems. Like the open world was weird. I didn't like the fact that it was open world, in my opinion. I feel like Metal Gear did not need to be open world.
The open world in that game to me feels like Ghost Recon Breakpoint because it's an open world, sure, but you can't go more than like 3 steps without having to go hide in a bush. So you can't enjoy the open world.
Yeah, you can't enjoy the open world in a stealth game.
Yeah,
You have to
it
always,
just makes no sense.
and also
That's not true. Dishonored had a kind of open-ish world, and
that's the
you can
thing.
enjoy yourself in that.
That's the thing. I feel like the way Dishonored did it, Dishonored is just like we talk about Dishonored because we both love stealth games, and Dishonored, the series, is
Dishonored is a masterpiece. Like,
especially for the fact that it's a first-person stealth game.
oh yeah,
Because it's always harder to be stealthy in first person because you can't see everything
right,
around you. But they managed to do it
exactly,
really well, and the way they do it is because you can't see anything around you. You can go above people.
right,
I think that's why they do that because you wouldn't know if somebody came up behind you. But if you're above them, there's nobody going to be behind you.
right. Except for Dowd. When you get to the Dowd area, that's really the only part where you actually have to like. You can't. I'm not gonna say you can't enjoy the open world because you still can, but like you have to be a lot more careful about it because then he has like the people that have the same powers as you do.
And the thing is, Metal Gear Solid 4 had kind of a semi. It wasn't as open world as Dishonored, but it has a somewhat semi-open world feeling to it. And I feel
Okay.
like they could have done that Dishonored semi-open world thing to where it's not a fully realized open world. It's just a really small, not small, but it's like well, in reference to other open world games, it's a small map, but it's a map full of verticality and a whole bunch of stuff to hide behind, and you
Right.
have to sneak your way through it to get to your goal. That's what they should have done with
There's like
Metal Gear
17
Solid 5.
different ways to get to each goal.
But
Like,
Metal Gear Solid 5 takes place in a desert. That's what makes it so less stealthy because there aren't that many places to hide.
there's nowhere to hide.
You're in a desert, so you're riding on your horse, and a car comes driving by, and they shoot your horse, and you're just like, "What was I supposed to do? There's nowhere for me to hide." You could
Exactly.
like hang off the side of your horse, so they don't know you're on the horse, and they were just like, "Why is that horse riding by itself?"
Or
But
pull the infamous box trick, where you just
yeah,
put a box over yourself in the middle of the desert. Like, oh yeah, that's not suspicious at all.
but yeah, I feel like the AI from The Last of Us Part 2 combined with the mechanics from Metal Gear Solid 5 and a map similar to something from Dishonored would be like the ultimate stealth game.
Oh yeah.
But
I think I was telling you about this earlier. It was I want a Black Widow solo game,
oh yeah,
like like a stealth game, and I wouldn't want it to just be like, oh, you have to be like all like Metal Gear Solid type stealth. Like I'd want there to be social stealth. I want it to be like a mix of Metal Gear
Hitman,
Solid. Hmm?
Hitman.
Yeah, I wanted to be a mix of Metal Gear Solid, Hitman, with like the AI of what's the word? Last of Us 2, like all put into one game. Oh, and the light mechanic from, or at least something similar to the light mechanic of Splinter Cell. So like you're completely invisible in the dark, or like very invisible in the dark.
Yeah.
But you're like shoot out lights and stuff like that. So I wanted to be like you have like so many options to complete your objectives, all in the Marvel universe playing as Black Widow. Like that is my dream game.
Yeah, the AI like
Well, one of my dream games.
it's kind of insane. Like a lot of people like hate on the story all they want. The AI in The Last of Us Part 2, as well as just the gameplay mechanics in general, is just it feels like it is very obviously the evolution of gaming in general. Because the AI
Right.
in the game is so intelligent. It makes no sense. They have no right to be as smart as they are. It can be annoying sometimes because they will find you if you. It's like it's real life. I told you they will literally stand on top of something so that they can see you better. And
Right.
much like in real life, if you're hiding in grass, tall grass. If they get close enough, they'll just see you. You know, in other video games, when you're in grass and you're hiding, like in like Assassin's Creed Origins,
I was gonna say Assassin's Creed. Yeah,
they come up right
that's
next.
not even just Origins. It's like every Assassin's Creed game that there's grass.
They'll come and stand. They'll come walk through the grass, walk right next to you, and then you just grab them and kill them. Not in The Last of Us. Once they get once they get a certain distance, they're just like, bro, I can see you in the grass. Do you think you're hiding? It's insane how good that AI is, and every game should have an AI like that at this point. I can only imagine. I can only imagine how they managed to make it.
Unless unless a video game is a beat 'em up, then they should totally all have AI that's smart.
Especially for stealth games, because it just adds an extra level of challenge. Because that's one of the biggest parts of video games in general. It has to be challenging.
Mm.
And there are a few games that I could sort of criticize, like the story's good, the gameplay's good, but there's no challenge.
Mm.
It's just easy to play. That was actually the speaking going back to the Ubisoft Forward event. That was the criticism of the Tempest Prince of Persia game. It was too easy.
Okay.
That was one of the biggest criticisms. It was too easy, and there was like there weren't many consequences because you could get out of almost any problem.
Right.
Like there was no you falling off something because you could come back. Like it was just they felt like it was too easy, and that there was really no challenge.
I definitely, because there were a lot of puzzles in that game that I struggled at, but it didn't really matter if I failed them or not, because then I would always, like, it didn't matter if I failed, because you're right, you would just always come back. You wouldn't lose anything, you wouldn't lose any progress, any of that.
But yeah, I feel like a Black Widow game that's like a combination of like Hitman and Splinter Cell would be really cool. Because like you said, the idea of having to disguise yourself and go through crowds, I feel like we don't see that in enough stealth games. We only see that in Hitman. But we never see it, we never see it anywhere else. It's always you're always a soldier, like in Splinter Cell or Metal Gear, and you're like in the middle of a war zone. Not like you're in the middle of New York City at a party and there's a politician there that you have to take out or something.
Right.
We only see stuff like that in Hitman. And to have a Black Widow game like that, for it to be, I would want it to be, it would take place in her before she was an Avenger, because it would make more sense for her to be going around murdering people before she was an Avenger. Even though
she still murders people a lot.
She still kills people, but the outward, like the way the mass public views Black Widow because of the movies, seeing her be just a murderer after being an Avenger would just be like, even for me knowing that she's still a murderer, a lot of the Avengers are murderers. Let's be real, but
oh yeah.
Like, people forget that Captain America was in a war. He had guns, but that's besides the point.
He had to kill people.
He kills people now with that shield, but that's...
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I feel like it would... One, I'm more interested in her origin. I know a little bit about it, but I'd like to know more. And I'd be more okay with her murdering people.
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned how the public views her, though, because that was actually... Before the podcast started, we were talking about the 2014 Black Widow series. And one of the major things, I think in like the first 4 issues are each like standalone adventures where she's basically just doing wet work. Like she's literally just going around doing assassination jobs just like to atone for her past. So she's only killing like bad people, but she kills people. And she straight up goes on assassination missions. And later on in the series, it's like there's a big thing like later on in the series because she's trying to take on like a shadowy organization called Chaos that she finds during one of the standalone adventures, like she discovers them, and she's trying to take them down. And in that, like in the rest of the series, as she's trying to take them down, she straight up murders people. Like there was this one guy that tried to kill her lawyer, who's like one of her best friends, and so he's handcuffed in like the NYPD's custody because the cops caught him or something like that. And so she like she doesn't kidnap, but she like ties up and like holds hostage like the cop in the little like two-way mirror investigation room, pretends to be one of the Chaos agents to get enough information from the guy, and then shoots him twice through the glass in the head, and then just like leaves. Like she does stuff like that all the time. And eventually Anderson Cooper is hosting like CNN or something like that, and they're doing like a segment called Who is the Black Widow? And like all the Avengers are watching it because they're like, yeah, she's an Avenger, but she's causing all this property damage. She's killing all these people. Who is she really? Because the Avengers shouldn't kill people, yada, yada, yada. And so, like, I think that was interesting.
First off, you're really good at describing scenes from books and comics and stuff like that. You're really good at stuff like that. But,
well, thank you.
Secondly, I feel like they made it clear in the first Avengers and in Civil War. I mean, not Civil War, but Winter Soldier, that she kills people. Like even after she became an Avenger in like Winter Soldier, like with the whole like them releasing the Shield files thing, they were I forget the name of the was he a senator?
He was a senator.
Yeah,
Wait, which one? The
dude that
the
like
Hydra senator or Alex Pierce? Alexander Pierce.
Pierce, yeah.
He wasn't a senator, I don't think. He was just like I don't remember what his position was in the government. He wasn't a senator though.
Yeah, but
I don't think.
yeah, I feel like
I'd have to rewatch that
he
movie.
kept like going talking to Black Widow like, are you sure you want people to know the type of things that you do or
Yeah.
that you do? Because there's still things that when she was a part of Shield, she was still doing those things. They were still sending her out to kill people because
Right.
her and Hawkeye were like their best agents. Like in reality, there's nobody on Shield anywhere near the level of Hawkeye and Black Widow in the movies at least.
Right.
But
I actually find it really interesting in the comics how Hawkeye, you would think that, like, with the way they portray him in the movies, that he'd kill way more. He actually does not kill that often.
yeah, he's
I
like
only think of it a few
he
times.
suffers from the Green Arrow effect, where they make him darker in like live action than he is in the comics. Because both him and Green Arrow when they started out as the comic relief. They were like jokey characters, and that's what I like about both of those characters. I like both sides of them. I like the dark versions of them, but I also like the jokey parts of them. I honestly prefer that. That's why I prefer
Same.
I prefer the way Green Arrow is personified in the Justice League series to any version of Green Arrow I've ever seen, comic book or TV. I feel like the version of him in the Justice League show was fantastic, and we've talked about how they should have made a Green Arrow and Black Canary TV show, cartoon in that universe.
Oh yeah,
it would have been so good because every episode with him and Black Canary was so good.
We're top tier. Yeah, they were some of the best episodes in the show.
Like the episode with those two, Question and Huntress, was a great episode.
Because I think all of those characters are some of my favorite comic book characters, except for Huntress. I'm not a big Huntress fan.
A lot of them,
but like that entire episode was just like a dream for me because I was like, yo, I love all three of these characters.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of characters became my favorite character because of that show. I feel like it's part of the reason I love Wally West Flash so much is because of that show.
I like Wally West Flash. I mean, modern Barry Allen and Wally West Flash are like not super similar, but like they're similar enough that if I didn't know that it was Wally West, I would have thought it was Barry Allen in the Justice League Unlimited show. But I like Wally West mainly because of the Jeff Johns comics. Those are like really good, and like I love those
because he was legit the Flash for 20 years in real life.
Right.
From what was it, like 85 to 2005? Like he was the Flash for a very long time. Like the main Flash that people. That's why he was the Flash. Like he was the Flash we grew up with up until like they brought Barry back.
Right. Barry came back in like 2009, and after that they just started sharing the mantle. And then ever since, I don't understand why they have no problem sharing the mantle because they shared the mantle from like 2009 to 2011.
Like, when he came back in Rebirth, he was it was some conversation they were having, and I think it was something about what he should call himself, and Barry was just like, no, you're the Flash.
Right.
he was like, no, you're the Flash. You are the Flash. And like for me, that's why I always say, me and you talk about it all the time. And I say Wally West is my Flash. How people talk about how people say Trump is not my president. Barry's not my Flash. Wally West is my Flash.
Okay.
But in reality, he needs his own name.
He does.
He needs his own name.
I want them to just take like Inertia or something, but Inertia is a Flash villain, or he's Bart's villain. I
know a really good name. I'm not going to say it out loud because it is the name of a character that I have who has super speed. So I'll tell you this outside of this podcast.
Okay.
It's a great name. I love the name. And it's low-key a character in Marvel, but they don't use. And I doubt if I were to copyright the name.
I think I know. I think I already know. I
might have told you before, or you might just be able to guess.
I think it's just like in my head. I'm pretty sure.
You just understand.
I'm gonna text you real quick because I just want to ask you. I'm gonna text you real quick. Hold on.
But yeah. So let's move on to movies. Let's talk about you know what? Actually, since we're talking about comics, let me talk about a comic that I discovered because I told you before. I mostly watch, much like how you said I think you said you learned about Ultimate Spider-Man through watching Comic Historian. I watched both Comic Historian and Comics Explained, and I was watching Comics Explained videos about the Immortal Hulk.
Okay.
And hold on, I'm gonna check that text.
Okay.
It's not.
It's not? Okay.
I thought you had it, but that's close. That actually wouldn't be a bad name. For you said Lightspeed because that's not a character that I have, so I don't
Yeah.
know. Lightspeed
That
would
was one of the Power Punch or
that,
Power Pack kids wound up growing up and becoming Lightspeed or something like that.
that wouldn't be a bad name for Wily West Flash. But the Immortal Hulk is a really cool story.
Okay.
It is really good. Have you read or heard anything about it?
I'm not a big Hulk fan. I haven't read like a single Hulk story.
I feel like
The
the
most I
Hulk,
know about like the Hulk stories are like Hawkeye. Hawkeye wound up killing him in Civil War II because he was like shoot me in the head or something like that, and Hawkeye was like, I mean, I guess,
yeah,
but that's like the most I know about him. Like,
he was like on trial for it, and Matt Murdock was his lawyer. He
wait, he was on child. He had a child.
yeah, he was on trial for killing the Hulk.
Oh no! I thought you.
Oh
No, I
no,
thought
no,
you meant he was on child support. And I thought you were talking about the Hulk. No, I remember Clint being on trial. I was like, wait, Bruce had a kid? I did not know this. Hold up.
no, child support.
I
No,
was like, I think I would have known that. Like, wait a minute.
but unless it was part of the Immortal Hulk, you probably would have known.
Yeah, no, unless it was part of Immortal Hulk.
But basically, what it is like you said, he died, but he comes back to life because of the Hulk. And basically, the Immortal Hulk is a new there are different versions of the Hulk. There's like Savage Hulk. There's Joe Fixit, Maestro. There's a bunch of different like personas of the Hulk, like Planet Hulk, things like that. This is basically just another persona of the Hulk. And actually, in the story, they introduced the fact that, which I think is really cool, that all of these personas are still in Bruce Banner's mind. And
Oh, that's cool.
And they're like teasing the idea that he could potentially turn into all those different versions of the Hulk. Like at one point, Joe Fixit, like the original Grey Hulk, like starts talking to him in his head. And he's like, wait, what? You've been gone like forever. When did you come back?
Right.
And he doesn't transform into him, but like Joe Fixit still takes over like his regular human body and gives him a bit of enhanced strength. Because here's the cool part. In this story, he can only turn into Hulk at night.
Oh, so kind of like a werewolf.
Yeah, he's like a werewolf, except he doesn't need a full moon. So he was in a hallway that was being shot with solar rays, so he couldn't transform into the Hulk. And that's why Joe Fixit took over his body and gave him enhanced strength, but he couldn't turn into the night. I mean,
That's actually really cool.
And the Immortal Hulk is basically, the Hulk is basically, he's intelligent. He's basically just as smart as Bruce Banner with all the strength of the Hulk. The angry,
Right.
he still gets angry and he still gets strong. He's basically the Hulk, but intelligent.
Okay.
So whenever he transforms it, literally the moment night falls, he's just like, I'm taking over. Almost all the time. But at some point, like always, they strike like an accord and they kind of get to an agreement. But what I like about it is, I need to look up the writer because I forget who writes it. But I first learned about the Immortal Hulk because, I keep saying Hulk, because
The Immortal Hulk.
Alex Ross does all the covers for the series. And
I remember seeing his covers.
And he always posts covers of the Immortal Hulk. He posts like a cover. He really likes drawing the Hulk. But where was I? I need to look up the writer. But basically, what's interesting to me, I legit just lost my train of thought.
Happened to me like 4 times today. Don't even worry about it.
He transforms at night. What was the most interesting part? I can't remember. Dang it. I really can't remember. Oh. It's like kind of a horror.
Okay.
And that's the most interesting part to me. That is kind of horror. And while I'm going through it, I'm like, that would actually be a really good like animated show or live action, something where the Hulk is like treated like a horror monster.
He's supposed to. Well, like that was like part of his original inception. Is he's supposed to be like a horror monster?
Yeah, but with the art style back then, it was hard to make him look scary.
Right.
Especially with the limited technology they could to make and mass produce it, they couldn't make him look as scary as they wanted him to. But in this comic, they managed to make it's like a mix of like traditional horror, make you fear horror, and gory type. It's
Okay.
like gore horror. Like people, it's the Hulk. He's ripping people apart. I don't know what happened to Abomination, but apparently, I guess he's dead. And
I didn't even know that.
I don't know either. I don't know what happened to Abomination, but apparently he's dead, and they like have his body, and like they reanimate his body and use it as a suit. Like people go into his body and like fuse with it and use it as like a suit and fight with it.
That's weird.
What is his name? The dude that turns into A-Bomb. The dude that Bruce Banner pushed out of the way of the Gamma Bomb. I forget his name. The dude that turned into A-Bomb.
I do too. I think it was like Rick Jones or something like that.
Yeah, Rick Jones. Yeah. Well, first off, his powers are completely different now. He's no longer A-Bomb. He's kind of like telekinetic or something like that.
Okay.
But he died, and they bring him back to life and put him inside of the Abomination suit and had him fight the Hulk. And this Hulk is like if Wolverine was the Hulk.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. It's hard for me to describe this. It's like really interesting what they're doing, what they did with the Immortal Hulk. I have no idea if the story's still ongoing, but they made it more like horror. They made it to where he can regenerate from almost anything, and he can only turn into Hulk. Bruce Banner can only turn into Hulk at night, and if Bruce Banner dies, as soon as night falls, he comes back to life because he turns into Hulk.
That's kind of cool.
It's basically how he came back to life after Hawkeye killed him.
Okay. That's actually really cool.
Like, I think that's the coolest part. Well, I think the coolest part is the horror aspect, but the fact that he can only turn into Hulk at night. It adds, it's like the Superman thing. When a character's too overpowered, it's hard to write stories for them. Because what are you going to do with this character that nobody can defeat? I mean, you could try to have Lex Luthor outsmart him, but that gets boring after a while.
Right.
You could bring in another character that's just as strong as him, but that requires you to write another overpowered character.
Right.
So instead, what they did with this overpowered character that is the Hulk, they just put a limit on him, in the fact that if he can only turn at night. And I think, speaking of Superman, I think a good way to limit Superman's power and make him add something interesting to his character is that he gets weaker at night. Because
I think that's supposed to be part of his character, but they don't.
He does not get weak enough to be incompetent. He's still.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's just like ridiculously overpowered.
I think that even then, if he got weaker at night, he would still be able to fly out into space and just go to the sun. But I think it would be cool. It doesn't have to be in like a main universe thing. It could be like Ultimate Universe, where it's a version of. Me and you have talked about that universe of where I actually never finished explaining it to you. I'm not going to go into the whole thing again right now because we're going to have to wrap up soon because we've been talking for a long time. But basically, in that universe that I'm creating of these DC characters, is Superman, or not Superman. You know he's not Superman because we talked about it, but he becomes a good guy, and he his power comes from the sun, like Superman does. He absorbs solar radiation, but at night his powers slowly seep away because he's not getting that radiation from the sun. But he's also not. He can't breathe in space. He can't just fly off the space and just go to the sun. Nor does he fly fast enough to just go straight to the sun to get power.
Right.
So at night he's weakened. And even if he shined with like UV rays, he still wouldn't be able to get as much power as he would from the actual sun. So whenever it rains, he's just, I don't know. I know he's going to do it. It rains outside. But I feel like that would be a cool limit on Superman. Because I feel like it's in their face. And like you said, they've done a little bit with it, but they haven't done enough. Right. They're purposely putting a limit on the Hulk's ability so that he is able to be, even though in this, he's still, he's the Hulk. He does some stuff. He does some insane stuff.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, do you know about the One Below All?
Sounds familiar.
You know about the one above all. I know.
Yeah, of course I know about the one
So
above all.
obviously
The
it's the
one
opposite.
below all sounds.
The one below all, like, there's several different characters that are like the devil in Marvel. You got Mephisto, you got Dormammu, you got a bunch of people.
Right.
And essentially the one below all is the one true devil. The rest of them, hell is a big, think of how like the earth, and there are different countries. And each one of those people, like Mephisto and Dormammu, and like Hela, who are like considered devils, they basically are just the devils of their own little region of hell. Whereas the one below all is the one true devil above all of, well, technically below, but above all of them. But he's like trapped in his own universe within hell. Presumably by the one above all, they never explain how he's trapped or why he's trapped. But I assume it's like the devil. The one above all threw him down there and locked him away so that he wouldn't be able to cause.
I'm looking at the Marvel database thing for him, and it says status, identity, secret identity, citizenship, hell, marital status, single. As if there was anything else that could be.
His citizenship is hell.
His citizenship is hell. Like,
but yeah, and
he's in Immortal Hulk #5. That makes sense why I've never heard of him, because I don't read Immortal Hulk.
Introduced in Immortal Hulk. And basically what happens is the Absorbing Man, who is a dope character that they don't use enough.
I love Absorbing Man. Absorbing Man is awesome.
He basically gets like an enhancement that boosts his powers. And he absorbs the radiation from the Hulk. And I don't know if you've seen the cover, but there's one of the covers that Alex Ross does where the Hulk's like really skinny. And he's like in this fiery pit. That's him in hell after Absorbing Man absorbed all of the gamma radiation. And basically what he did was he absorbed the gamma radiation, and the one below all like used the gamma radiation that Absorbing Man absorbed to open a portal to hell. And
that's cool.
And he pulled in the Absorbing Man and the Hulk.
Okay. And that's actually super cool.
Eventually Absorbing Man like gives the Hulk all of the gamma radiation that he absorbed so that the Hulk can become stronger, and he didn't beat the one below all, but he like knocked him out, and then they escaped out.
Okay.
But yeah, the Immortal Hulk is a really cool story.
That sounds pretty cool.
And just the way
that sounds like something I'll probably like.
Yeah, the way they use the Hulk in that is really interesting. There's also a person in there. There's like this reporter who like follows him because she wants to be like him. She wants to become like a Hulk. She basically wants to be She-Hulk.
Okay.
Speaking of She-Hulk, I'm excited for that show. I wonder what they're going to do with that. But anyway, we've been talking. I don't even know how long we've been talking because there literally is no.
I don't either because the time for the recording.
There's no timer.
It's not popping up. Wait, hang on. I might. Oh yeah, no. Even in meeting information, it's not popping up.
Yeah, there's no timer telling me like how long we've been recording, but like we should probably wrap this up.
Probably, yeah.
I wanted to talk about Batman and 007, but we can save that for a couple weeks from now when we record the second episode. But
okay, I was gonna say because now I'm interested to hear about that topic. We'll have to talk about that after this is over because I'm like, wait a minute. Okay.
No, this has been the Mustardcast, our very first episode. This was fun. I'm glad we finally got a chance to record this. I'm gonna edit this. I'm gonna put this on our YouTube channel. At the Mustardcast, and we you can follow me personally on Instagram at Dijon Mustard, Dijon_Mustard_ 432, and on Twitter at Dijon_432. You want to tell them where they can find you personally?
Also Instagram, T_H_N_ Amir, so AMIR. I'm sure you'll edit that in somewhere on screen. A matter of fact, see if you can put it on my hand right there.
I'll try.
Okay. I don't have a Twitter, so yeah.
So, and you can find, currently we don't have a Twitter account, but we have an Instagram. It's at the Mustardcast, and YouTube at the Mustardcast. This has been our first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Peace.